Welcome to 10 Talks, real conversations for champions with champions, where a champion life is a 10 life. Thank you for joining our conversation. I'm Carlette Patterson, and it's our desire to coach you up to win well-being by sharing winning strategies from our champion lives. If you're interested, go to CHAMP10N or ChiefWellbeingOfficers.com. And remember, you and your life matter. Enjoy our conversation. Interested in winning well-being in your personal, professional, and philanthropic life? We've created a coaching and training program. It's called Champion Wellbeing. You can find out more information at CHAMP10N It's a combination of best practices from sports, business, and life. It's a curriculum that trains you in 10 intelligences. What are those 10 intelligences? Well, it's all about well-being, emotional intelligence, love, leadership, being you, economic independence, your identity, new for change management, and giving hope. Ready to win the day and win well-being? Go to championwellbeing.com. Hi team, welcome to 10 Talks. Today's desired outcome is well-being for college coaches, and we have the honor of talking to two of our coaches that have finished our Champion Wellbeing course. So they're going to share a bit about their story, their winning strategies for well-being, and most importantly, we want to really serve you, give you hope, and get you excited to really launch into being a champion for your well-being. So today our guests are Lynn and Joanne. And so Joanne, let's start with you. Let's hear a little bit about the power of your story.
Sure. Well, I am a college softball coach. I coach at Pomona-Pitzer in Southern California. It's a Division III school, and I think this year is my 21st year of being a head coach. And then I was an assistant coach for 3 seasons as well. So I also teach PE. So we are faculty members at Pomona College and serve on committees. And so I've been in the game for a long time. A few years ago, I met Lynn at a conference that was designed to help support women coaches. And at the conference, we were introduced to Carlette. And I just had the honor of working with Carlette through the 2019 softball season. And then I took the sports life coaching certification, and then I took well-being. And so, I think my passions and my career, of course, I still love softball and teaching and all of that, but this has really opened a lot of new doors for me in terms of thinking about a different way that I can support the student athletes and also all of the students at the college. So it's been a lot of fun, really enjoyed the course, and just really looking forward to applying that to my team and also to the classes that I teach.
And Joanne, we want to give a shout out to We Coach. They're an amazing, amazing organization. And I've had the honor of being able to speak and work with them and in terms of just supporting women coaches. And that is where all of us met. And we just are so grateful. They are an amazing, amazing organization. So if you are a women's coach in college and you're interested in getting coached up in an amazing way, We Coach is fantastic from that perspective. So Lynn, let's talk about the power of your story.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. And it was an honor meeting both of you. It is funny how I think that's part of my story is it's been anchored in sport. However, just things have happened at the right time. And I feel like that's our relationship too. So thank you both. You popped in just at opportune moment. So I am a head coach for field hockey at St. Joseph's University. That's Division I, and we're located in Philadelphia. I've been coaching for about 15 years, here for 7. I was born in DC, grew up in Northern Virginia, and also anchored in sport because I am fortunate where I think I've tried almost every sport except for ice hockey. That's on the bucket list. And I just always remember my mom saying how fortunate I was as a female to have sport. So she had an option between cheerleading and running. And when they ran track meets back then, they got a quarter. So I always remember these stories, and although they were really annoying growing up, I think now I look back and just really thankful for all the sport. So I was a big soccer player, ended up transitioning late into field hockey, went to play for Beth Anders, who is an amazing coach, still one of the winningest coaches for field hockey. So again, I think I just meet these coaches and they really help propel me forward. I was not planning on being a coach. I actually had a job offer for a marketing company and decided to go be a volunteer at the University of Richmond. So my theory was I'm going to give it a go and then see what happens, and then just fell in love with it. So from that moment, stuck with coaching, and I think really the value of sport and what it not only brings to me and how I can help give hope to others is why I'm still in it.
Well, and what's so powerful about sports life coaching, which is what's connected us, is just using sports as our platform. It's what we're all passionate about, and we certainly know it. And how can we take the winning strategies and the life lessons that we learn in sport and really transfer them into our lives and to practice being a champion in our life as intentionally as we commit and practice to being a champion in sports? And so that's what our Champion Wellbeing is all about. It's the combination of sports, business, and life. And so we had a team of people that came together, and it was that combination, which was really fun to learn from everybody else and to hear, needs assessments and start to bring in the business of well-being, as well as just, how do we make that person actually be able to optimally perform and feel like they are being their best on and off the field, in and out of business. So for us, it's that 3D model, personally, professionally, and philanthropically, and knowing that I bring my person with me everywhere I'm going. And certainly in sport, we have been committed to taking care of the person because we know that person's performance is going to show up very intentionally from a sport perspective. Not so much in business. Has that always been the intention? It's been more like, let's get the business done, and the people are part of getting that business done. So part of our Champion Wellbeing and our Chief Wellbeing Officer program is all about 10 intelligences that we've come up with that we feel like are a start for well-being. And let's start with our first one. It's well-being intelligence. So Lynn and Joanne, what did you learn as women coaches really for your well-being, and how have you taken it from really our workouts into your life personally, professionally, and philanthropically? So Joanne, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think as I'm also a mom, so I forgot to say, I know Lynn is also, so a coaching, working mom. I would say everyone says, spend time to take care of yourself. I think in this course, it's helped me realize that I really do need to do that. And self-love does not equal selfishness. It's taking a little bit of time every day to just even plan out what I have to do. We spend a lot of time planning out what everybody else has to do and kind of thinking ahead on a number of issues, but just kind of taking that time for yourself has been something that I learned. And then also just being able to share what I need. So often I don't say what maybe I might need in terms of, home and work and everything. So as I looked back through what I wrote in that first chapter, it was really just, finding time to think about what I need, my well-being, asking for what I need, and then also taking that time every day, like whatever that is for you. For me, it's my morning routine and really protecting that time. So I like to exercise first thing in the morning, probably because I don't want to shower again. That might, but I like to get it out of the way if possible, before breakfast, before my son wakes up, just kind of having that time for myself to reflect, listen to a book, like learn something new is something that I've said. And then throughout the book, throughout the course and the playbook, I've been able to really, that keeps showing up, like protecting my morning routine is something that helps set myself up for well-being.
Love it. And what about you, Lynn?
I definitely echo a lot of what Joanne said. And I feel like you're supposed to take care of yourself. However, especially when you're a working mom too. And I feel like this is okay to say too, because even Sarah Blakely from Spanx, like all of a sudden you have kids and all this noise happens. And I was like, oh, she feels that way. Thank goodness I can feel that way. So however, a lot of times you don't have the stories and you're going through this, you feel like on your own, and there's all this change, and you want to take care of your kids, and you want to take care of your team and your partner, and all these elements that are going on. So with the well-being, one of my biggest takeaways was the tools, the statting. We're all competitive. We use numbers all the time. So the ability to actually stop and have to stat something, you kind of realize the things that are going well and the things that really aren't. And sometimes when, again, you have all this stuff going on, it forced me to stop and sit. And then to JoAnne's point as well, I got to listen. And it is amazing. Just like when you're a student athlete, you can see there's this circle and everything affects everything else. Well, the same thing when you're an adult. So the business, the sports, the life side, hearing all these professionals in these different arenas actually gave me tools, because we deal with those different types of people all the time as well. So I think I'll probably continue to go back to the tools that you gave with the well-being and the language, just to be able to communicate something and be on the same page really, really helped me.
So team, what you're hearing from a tool perspective are our sports life coaching tools. And the one that Lynn's referencing is the stats from 1 to 10. We're huge on really making sure that stats are very factual. So a lot of times with emotions, we think, oh, they can't be factual. They're just how we feel. Well, we like to really come in and say, that's not true. You can challenge yourself to actually stat up your feelings, how you're doing, what your day is like. So the tool that we can hand you right now from our Champion Wellbeing in reference to our conversation is on a scale of 1 to 10. How do you feel about that activity, or, how you're feeling about your lunch or not having lunch, or your energy, your emotions, everything from that perspective. And if you get accustomed to really statting up every single thing that you're investing in, personally, professionally, philanthropically, time, energy, emotion, that's your day. So if part of your day is 1s and 2s or 5s and 7s, you're not going to be able to have a 10-day, which is our desired outcome, an 8 to 10 day, because your stats just haven't added up. And that's what's so great about sports, is that it's factual. You can't have a bad half and then think that, oh, it's, I'm going to ignore my first half and just come in and be able to say it just matters about the second half, because that feeling is continuous. So we like to say every day is game day. So in terms of your day, you start the day, how's your breakfast, your rituals and routines, your exercise, and just breaking it down into those short-term wins helps you to really feel like you've got some control, whether, that's true or not. That's a fantasy we all like to have. So being able to say, did I win my breakfast in terms of, is it nutritionist? Did I, get a workout in today? That's a win. How many well-being wins can you collect in the day? And that's that 8 to 10 zone, and you really determining, what it is from a winning perspective. Let's talk about performance barriers, because as fabulous as all this sounds, it's really hard to do. And certainly, as I've got 3 little women, they're all out of the house now. So I have a new season of not juggling quite as many things, but you two both have young children that are really important, and making sure their well-being is important. So as much as we say this is a good idea, how did you finally take it from a good idea into your life? JoAnne?
I would say, just like in sport, just rituals and routines for me. Like if I don't exercise before breakfast, so now I actually have to earn breakfast.
I love that. That's a winning strategy.
I don't know if it's like, for the doctors, if that's a good, but I'm not exercising that much. But I do, get exercise and then eat, so that it's, so that I make sure that I'm anchoring in those rituals and routines. So that's been a winning strategy for me. And then also just finding that space where I like to work in the house, trying to, play music for joy breaks in between my day, and just trying to really be intentional about how I'm showing up throughout the day, and then just being consistent with it.
Practice. And Lynn, what about you from a performance barrier perspective? What have been your actions to change?
I think a big one was actually just saying yes to the course. A little bit nervous, wasn't sure what I was getting into, and it's in the middle of our season, right? That's not a season due to COVID. However, there's constant change. And I did have to, it is a chunk of time. I wasn't really used to giving myself that chunk of time. All of a sudden myself, I was like at the bottom. I was like, I'll do later, I'll have time. And then you're in bed. So I just realized putting it in the calendar and logging on to the call. And it was amazing. And afterwards you feel so much better. However, there's so many moments where I just, like I said, I'd put me last. So I have gone back to, it's important and has to find time on the calendar, which might sound really, really simple. However, it's a huge winning strategy for me. Then the other performance barrier probably is, again, you hear about relationships and you want to support all these people, and you're limited in time. Carlette, you'd always say you have 24 golden nuggets. And I wanted to find a way to connect and make sure they're okay. And I think one of the things the course did, again, was just the language, call your life play, 10 moments. We did 30-minute cardio sessions with the team. And Carlette, that was another huge winning strategy for me, is I brought you in to work with my team, and then did mini groups with them. So I started to find I could actually collect a lot of information in a short amount of time. I just had to figure out that language. So just figuring out what to slot into those calendars and how to make it as effective as possible.
Well, I love that power of team and really being able to connect you to teams, because so many times as executives or, really being a head coach and being in charge, we leave us out of the equation and we don't get to connect with other people. They talk a lot about leadership being lonely. And it's because it's all about everybody else. And the beauty of, and really the desired outcome of our champion well-being, is to connect people that are on the same level, really wrestling with the same life performance barriers, and let you connect as a team and learn from each other and really enjoy just the power of connecting and team, and that beautiful component that each one of us make sure we give everybody else, but we don't necessarily give ourselves. So such a valuable component. And when you have to show up for a team workout, you show up. I mean, that's the beauty part of it.
That's what I was going to say, is it certainly, I was there for the team, and the team was all going to log on at the same time. And I haven't finished my homework, but everybody else is going to finish their homework. It's different if it's just me working with you, Carlette. Like that's, of course I'm going to be responsible. I'm going to show up, I'm going to do my work. But when you're surrounded by a team, not only do you feel this, a greater sense of showing up your best and doing your work, but you also learn from each other. So there are oftentimes I couldn't finish the homework, or I didn't understand it, or I didn't know what to put. And then just listening to the other women on the call, it was like, oh, I get it now. And so just hearing what works for them and hearing their strategies has been very helpful to me.
So that's accountability. That again is really the beauty of power of team. Sometimes we think about accountability or having to show up as a team as a performance barrier. It's like the pressure of it. Well, the new thinking is just the joy of it. And really the ability that sometimes you don't feel like doing it. It's like, oh my gosh, I really don't have 2 hours to do this. And then when you finish and you've gotten to connect with other people, you've gotten to learn something, which I love the power of learning constantly. How can we learn from each other? And really the beauty of a team, it's not that each person is collectively just themselves. It's what you become when you join something that's so different than just being you. So it really gives you that opportunity to step way outside of your box, get coached, which is a huge 10 for me. I love being able to coach people who are usually coaching and usually in charge, and really giving them that gift of, let you not be in charge and let you just get to learn and hear from everybody else. So let's talk about our leadership intelligence, which is exactly what we're already talking about. I just wanted to give it a name and really a tool, which we start with, how do you lead yourself before you start leading others? And that's what we've been talking about, is each one of you led yourself to make this time for well-being. and really begin to take exactly what you're learning and be able to then lead your teams. And that is one of our desired outcomes, is that what you learn inside our courses, can you then take it and practice by implementing, with your teams, with your family, with different people. So JoAnne, talk about leadership intelligence and what it meant to you.
Yeah, well, what I really liked about the playbook was all of the research at the beginning of each chapter. So we would read about the different leadership styles. I liked when it was talking about leadership versus management, because it made me kind of look at, okay, what am I good at? What do I need to work on? What are my strengths? What are the areas that are room for improvement? So that was, I thought that was a really great chapter. And also just how kind of combining that with the love chapter in terms of like, how can I infuse love into my leadership with my teams, with everything that I'm doing at my job. So I really liked learning about the different leadership styles and how I can anchor in my strengths, like what I'm good at, and I continue to improve upon.
And I love anchoring it in the love component. I mean, that's the beautiful part, is that everything we do from a sports perspective, we're passionate about sport. And then we think when we come into business, we can't be passionate about it. But, we wanted to just blow up that theory and be like, wrong answer. We can definitely come at this in the same way, just some new thinking, new skills, and hopefully give people new hope from that perspective. So Lynn, what was your view on really leadership intelligence?
I do agree the research was a really helpful element. Also, that went back to the homework where you had this book and you knew you had to read it. So as much as I loved it, it did add kind of that pressure component, which maybe is why I liked it a little bit too. Because then if you think about team, you had all those dynamics. You had this competitive group of people who wanted to be really successful. You had anyways, all the tools, and it was neat to see just how it came together. Anyways, so the leadership, one of the things, so I think the Wooden book was involved with the leadership. I mean, I love the power moment. So many of the tools that you were given, I think, helped with different elements of the leadership. And then what I probably really resonated with me was the new hope, new thinking, and new skills. That was not only for me in the course, but that's something that I talked a lot about with my group. So I applied that right away. And that just went back to reiterating change. There was a ton of change. What can we control? And with leadership, that's a huge component, because it's always adapting. There's always a component of change. So it was nice to be able to learn and then actually apply, not only to me and who I am, but also my group of young women who actually really responded well. And it was cool to see that full picture of them using the tool as well.
Right. So such a 10 to be able to learn and then start practicing and start implementing. And that is really the desired outcome of having tools versus just being a conversation. If it's just a conversation, you're going to walk away and you've learned something, but how do you actually take what you've learned and start implementing it? So the beautiful part about this whole combination is another one of our intelligences is economic independence. And certainly as women coaches, you two are really part of that process of how do we kind of have it all? How do we have the family? How do we have a career that we love? What about our partners? So economic independence, what does it mean to you? What have you learned? How is economic independence really part of your well-being? JoAnne?
I would say just getting a grasp on everything in terms of finances. I think so often you get a paycheck, so you know how much you're making every month, but really finding some tools to set me and my family and myself up for success, later on and down the line. And so often, I don't know how people learn about this stuff. You just kind of get a job and then you start working. And then, for me, it's like, oh, I have a cousin who's a financial advisor. And then you make phone calls and you call people and you try to figure it out. And maybe, and I think, making that intentionally part of helping and supporting and training women in particular, I think would be huge, because I'm not sure if through male networks or what happened, if if male coaches might know a little bit more, but just trying to, find ways to set women up for success, and success being just financial stability where they feel like it's not a worry every month, where they just a little bit of safety and a little bit of security for themselves and also for their families. Because so often for women coaches, if they think about leaving their jobs, that is a big decision and it financially affects the whole family. And so they might struggle a little bit with just trying to figure everything out, where jobs do equal money and you need money to be able to support your family and pay for things. So just kind of, I guess, peace of mind, knowledge, just kind of an understanding of where you are.
And what about you, Lynn?
Well, I hold on to that phrase, surround yourself by good people. And I think that's one of my biggest tools, because once you have that, you're with the support system. Mm-hmm. So if it's every now and then so my boys, I have one that's 4 and one that's 1. One was born May, so a couple months before season. We start in August. The other one was born July 29th, so about 2 weeks before season. And I rolled right into season. So I didn't take that time off. And I think it's whatever works for you is what you have to do. And why I think this is important is because I think we are used to, if we want something, we'll find a way to make it work. And that's really, really valuable. However, I also think we need to get better at it. So the economic side of it is leave it better for the next person. I think we have to keep on getting salaries higher. We need to, and this is, the Tucker Center does a ton of research for women in sport, not only getting women more involved, and you're seeing the huge high school dropout rate, but the only 40% of female coaches are leading females. So getting people in those spots where we can see them and actually financially support them is really, really huge. And most of our top conferences, it would be interesting to go and look at their report cards. And we have amazing female leaders. However, a lot of times at those top institutions, how are we funding them? So I think there's a lot of ways to make it work. And I'm really thankful for the support staff I have. My husband's amazing. Our parents aren't really close. If we need it right now, they come.
Let's talk about valuing yourself, because when I think about economic independence, yes, it's absolutely about making sure that we're getting a salary, but a lot of times we don't value ourselves enough to really ask for what we need. And so this is an important component to learn from a well-being perspective. How do we value who we are, as well as valuing connecting with a support system? So Lynn, when you think about just understanding your value, what have been some winning strategies for you?
Like I said, joining the wellbeing course, because it also gave me a reason to connect back with Joanne. So I texted her and asked her about it. And then I texted again and asked about what should I put in my toolbook for my team. So I'm not great at that. So to put me back in an environment where I got to meet new people and just be reminded of it, actually is very fulfilling and insightful for me to reach out to strong females. I learn something every time I talk to them. So I'm actually doing that, which has been, like I said, just rewarding and valuable for me. And it just reminds you that a lot of times we think about it as networking. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't say I'm great at networking, but then when I think about it as a relationship, well, I coach because I value relationships. Well, if I can do that better for myself, then I'm not only going to set myself up for success, but also be able to support those around me better too.
And Lynn, you really got to experience the value of connecting to our team, but really G.I.V.E.H.O.P.E is what started that. And I want to give a shout out to Melissa Llewellyn. She's the one that introduced me to G.I.V.E.H.O.P.E. So when you talk about relationships, to me, it's just that power of being for each other. and really making sure that whoever calls, yes, how may I support you? And it's not necessarily about, what we're going to get from it, because we have no idea. It's just a matter of showing up and being for each other, and then letting the rest of it really evolve. And I think sometimes from a well-being perspective and economic independence, we're really intentional about, well, what am I going to get out of it? And a lot of times we want to actually go at it from, how may I serve and support you? And then we'll figure out how to do that. And so that's been a value base that I have built our company on. We're 21 years old now, and just been word of mouth. We've never advertised. It's just a matter of really finding people that need what we have. And so, Lynn, when you talk about network versus relationship, that's a huge winning strategy for how we value ourselves and for well-being, because I think that really anchors us in something that matters to us, rather than it being a task that we're going out and putting on our list of things we got to do and checking it off. Instead, authentically, how can we connect and really help each other? And then once we're in relationship, now we're going to be able to help each other in ways we never imagined, because we're just there. It's just a matter of saying yes to the call and then really seeing what happens with that. And, I'm only here today in the life and the business that I have because of the people that have helped me, and the people that have said, hey, you know what, talk to Carlette about sports life coaching, and then talk to me about this and talk about that. So I'm incredibly grateful for the relationships that I have, and wouldn't have you and wouldn't have everything that I have today if it weren't for, people just really being for me. And so, Joanne, when you think about really that power of your value and valuing others, what shows up for you as a winning strategy?
Yeah, well, I think just being for other people, to me, it just feels so much better. Like so often, like I don't know if I'm for myself that much. Like sometimes that feels kind of heavy, where it's like being for others is easier. It actually helps me feel better about myself, helping other people. I mean, that's just naturally what I like to do. So in terms of like who was for me, my dad was a huge influence in my life. So he was always supporting women in sports and softball in particular. I mean, he was always like the cheerleader in the corner supporting me. And just as I look at, my film and coaching, I'm probably saying the same jokes that he said and doing the same thing, but it's like, it's so great that like his legacy can live on through me, and I can still be for him and like be for women and women coaches, and particularly moms who coach, and giving back makes me feel better. And it feels easy. It doesn't feel like it's a chore. And it can also be something very simple, right? So it can be listening to a colleague. We're all so busy teaching, running around if we were on campus, but very busy in everything that we're doing, and just sitting down and taking the time for another female coach. It's, to me, it's easy, and I always feel better. I feel like just listening and offering a little bit of hope and being for others. To me, it's like I get a lot of joy out of that.
So, Joanne, that's another one of our intelligences, is all about giving hope. And so many times when we talk about those three dimensions, personal, professional, and philanthropic, the minute you say the word philanthropic, it just feels heavy. It's like, oh my gosh, like I don't have time. I don't, can't give extra money. So we really just want to introduce some new thinking around that being philanthropic and really being a championship giver is all about giving hope. And it can be as simple as giving a smile, giving time in terms of listening. And so that's one of our intelligences, to really introduce the power of giving hope from a well-being perspective. It does release amazing endorphins when we actually give and support other people. And so again, when you think about well-being, I hope you're hearing this theme of really being for you. And the minute you're for you, you have extra energy, a little extra time, that all of a sudden you're giving small doses to other people, and yet it's making a big impact. And that's really what Champion Wellbeing is about, is how can I take my gifts and my talents and give them to others in a way that really makes a big impact with a small investment, because each one of us are totally kind of maxed out in terms of living this 10 life and, family and friends and fun and careers and everything that we're working on. So, Lynn, when you think about giving hope, what did you learn from a well-being perspective?
Well, I definitely, I read The Philanthropic the first time we talked about it. I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm a terrible person. What do I do? Awful. However, I think another really good thing about the well-being overall is, yes, you're statting yourself and you're reflecting, and some of the things though, you're realizing, hey, I actually do this. And that's the new thinking, right? So I forget, Anne gave us a phrase in the middle of one of our calls. I don't know, Joanne, do you remember the word she used?
She was preferred using activism.
Ah,
And all of us were like, oh, and it was just neat because it was refreshing. And we're host parents to a couple kids who just need that support because they're funded to go to a boarding school. Well, there's all these little things that started to pop up, and I was like, actually, yeah, I'm really passionate about this, and I do. I just, for some reasons, thought a lot of it was money based, and I didn't really financially support, but there's so many other ways to do it. So with the G.I.V.E.H.O.P.E, there was really passing some of that new thinking on to, again, my players group was really rewarding because then you could hear in a training environment. We did the video cardio sessions on Zoom. Everybody's been living on Zoom these days, so why not? And we kept it really short. And you could see they started to refuel each other, and they'd give a compliment and the eyes would just light up. And it was all about giving hope because, like Joanne said, they actually listened and they tried something and it made an effect, and they never would have known if they didn't share that. So it's refreshing to just have the little things that actually work. And again, you're going back to all these things you stat and you realize that, hey, I am actually following my passion, or it is impacting somebody else. And that's super rewarding.
so as we talk about passion, that leads us to another one of our intelligences, which is identity intelligence. And so many times people think, well, I need to do this or I should do that. And then their stat is really a 6 or a 7 out of 10 from that perspective, because it's exhausting to like do all the things everybody's telling you should do, or, and then the self-talk is I'm not doing enough. And oh my gosh, you can just go down this path that's like, that's a 1 in itself in terms of identity. And so what did you two learn about from an identity perspective? I really want to anchor in that passion and who you are as a mom and a partner personally and professionally as a coach and philanthropically as a champion giver. So Joanne, take us through really some winning strategies that you learned from an identity perspective.
Yeah, I would say, I think just my authentic self might appear different than what I think of as like a coach personality, maybe. And so just the more I've kind of delved into, who I am, how am I best, and what's a 10 for me throughout the day? How can I show up a 10, and how can I show up my best self? The more that I've learned about that and kind of the power of my story, it's just really takes the pressure off. And the reality is just being myself and being authentically me. I can still lead. I don't have to be different in any way. So just kind of that was an interesting chapter and a good one for me to just kind of, it helped just take the pressure off. Just be you, like that I matter and my strengths matter, and that I'm bringing something to the table. If I can bring my best self to the table, I can make an impact in people's lives.
So Joanne, how did you find the courage to really begin to honor who you were instead of kind of being 3 different people or being one way at home and then trying to show up different at work and fill all of those shoulds in terms of what people expected of you? Expectations are a huge performance barrier and can really take away from our authentic self. And so how did you do that?
Well, with your help, Carla. I think when I first started working with you, just introducing the fact that we have 3 dimensions, like to me, it was, success professionally and significant, all of the things that we talked about helped me think about, what can I control, and how can I show up my best self, like in my personal life? How can I show up my best self in my professional life, not based on anything else? So not based on wins and losses, personally, not based on, how my family or my friends feel about me, just kind of really every day being intentional about how I move throughout the spaces, like what can I control and how can I show up my best self, not knowing what's going to happen with the game or with anybody else. So that has been huge for me, and I think it is daily practice and practicing it and thinking about it. So I'm still practicing every day.
Well, that's a lifelong journey, right? This game of life is not something that finishes like the rest of our seasons. We're not going to retire or anything from that perspective. And we certainly don't, retire from our identity. In fact, hopefully, especially in this season that we've gone through, that we've learned new things about ourselves. We've learned what does really matter. We've learned what we can control and what we can control, and just really starting to value and honor who we are from an identity perspective, and to start to give ourselves a lot of grace, find a way to speak our truth, surround ourselves with people that do love and support us and are okay with the messiness of us kind of figuring out who we are. And certainly as high achievers, usually we're one-dimensional. That's really what our coaching is all about, is giving that high achiever that ability to be 3D, personally, professionally, and philanthropically, so that you can feel like if you don't have controls over the wins or losses, your team's not doing well, doesn't mean that you're bad or a bad coach. It can mean that you're having a bad season or something from that perspective, really separating it from our identity. So Lynn, as you learned more about identity from a well-being perspective, what was some winning strategies for you?
Well, one is the word you just said, grace. It came up a lot. And I realized that was something I was not giving myself. It was everybody else. So I was like, all right, it's okay that this happened to this person. I got you. I got you. And I was just forgetting to do that for me. So that's something I have been implementing more. I have to remind myself. The other thing is, I remember one of our, I guess our home, well, we did this together. One of our assignments, say, was, and you might need to help me with the action. So instead of, we are filling out what it is we enjoyed, what was important to us, what our passions were. And a lot of times, at least for me, I was thinking of the actual action and forgetting about the feeling component of it. So then when I needed my joy break or wanted to go do something, I would go into this, well, what do I have time for? Should I do this or this or this or this? So, and I overthink pretty much everything. And that was another thing, whereas almost you're creating this cheat sheet of, well, this is actually what I value and I know it. So I have my 30 minutes. So whether it's just getting outside and walking, because that's what I actually enjoyed, I kind of was in fast forward with everything else. I wasn't realizing those, I guess, would you say the feeling components of what's important? Because then I could create a quick, oh, I'm going to go do this, and this equals my joy break, which equals refueling, which equals me being a better me.
Yeah. So team, what you're getting to hear there is that really that's our tool for rest and recovery, or really inserting joy. We call our joy breaks those little moments that we take between Zoom calls or between meetings. They're usually like 3 to 5 minutes. And it all starts with doing the exercise of what is it that I love to do? And usually it's, hiking, exercise, it's travel, it's all these things that take a lot of time. And so we really take that component and say, okay, now that you know what you love and you're passionate about it, do the exercise of really discovering what aspect of that is what you love. So now with that aspect, for instance, travel, maybe what you love about travel is seeing new places, getting to see your friends, experiencing new things. So we take those 3 things and we put them into our list, so that when we have 30 minutes or we're taking a joy break, we can say, okay, I want to connect with a friend, or I want to experience something new, or I want to see something different. So what's so important is really empowering you to know what aspect of the activity is it that I really love, so that now I'm not limited to, oh, I can't travel, so therefore I can't experience the aspects of it that I love. And now you've got joy breaks that you can take for 3 to 5 minutes. You've got things you can do for rest and recovery Monday through Friday. On the weekends, you can do a bigger version of it. So it's really a fun way from a well-being perspective to anchor in what, from an identity perspective, what you're passionate about.
One other thing that got me in the beginning, It was dreadful, but by the end, I really liked it. It was the stick figure, the 3D tool.
The
What's
3D
it called,
team?
Carla?
The 3D team?
Yes, the first time I filled it out. So the beauty is it kind of gives you, I love direction, right? So I need to work towards a journey. And I'm also a processor. So I think about everything. And the first time you were creating this stick figure with brilliant questions just to kind of ground yourself and figure out your journey. And like they were all empty. And I was like, what's wrong with me? This is terrible. But then after you got the hang of it, and again, like this book, I feel like I'm always going to go back to because I do not have any of it down by any means. But the stick figure I liked because it got you on the spot. So it was almost what was true in your heart in that moment. And then through the process of doing the book, I realized that journey, I needed to strengthen it. So then when I was asked the question later, I had a solid belief and felt anchored and excited about it. So that stick figure was definitely not my favorite in the beginning, but I thought that was it's just a neat tool to reflect on where you are and where you want to go.
So team, you're getting to hear just an array of tools, and that's called our 3D team. It is a goal setting tool. And so what's really powerful about it is that we do draw a stick figure, and then I do take you through a set of questions, and they're really quick. And Lynn articulated it beautifully. It's really designed to get you out of your own way and really connect your mind and your heart to figure out what is it that you really want. So a lot of times when we're doing well-being goals or, season goals, success goals, it doesn't sound so fabulous, right? It's heavy and, does this matter? Is this what everybody else thinks I should do? And we just, get rid of all of that from a well-being perspective. And we do this tool and it's amazing because it does become everybody's favorite because it just gives you so much information in such a quick amount of time. And what you got to hear Lynn and Joanne talking about is that when they started Wellbeing and they started our Champion Wellbeing course, which is a training, it's coming together on a team for 10 weeks. You show up every week for 2 hours and we train. We train you in 10 different intelligences. You've got to hear a few of those today. And then you have homework. You practice, practice, practice. We have a playbook full of, research and exercises and tools. And, it's packed full of really training you to be a champion in your well-being. And number one, you got to find the time for it, which means you've got to honor you. You've got to say, my well-being is important. Me training for my well-being is important. And there's going to be some things that really feel uncomfortable. Certainly joining a team that nobody on it, right? I mean, that's what's really, fascinating is that you have to trust the process and you join this team and you show up and you make a commitment. And most importantly, it's just a commitment to you. There are no right or wrong answers. There are no, winners or losers. It's just, did you really win well-being for you? And so Lynn and Joanne, thank you for sharing your journey with our team and really being able to hear kind of just what you discovered about yourself personally, professionally, and philanthropically. And team, it's important for us, for you. We want to be on your support team. We want to give you hope. We want you to really go out and, number one, define what well-being means to you, get a support team around you to cheer you on, support you, hold you accountable, and go out and win well-being. Be a champion for your well-being. So Joanne and Lynn, thank you very much. Appreciate you being on our Champion Wellbeing team. Thank you for listening. We'd like to get you coached up, so head over to iTunes and Spotify and hit subscribe. And remember, a champion life is a 10 life. You and your life matter. Create a life that you love, give hope to others, and be and choose nothing but 10s. Be you, the world needs you. Go to lifetrainingacademy.com to start your training and get coached.